Hello Kaiju fans, and welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. I am MM, and I am happy today to say that Grand King Ghidorah has won the second Monster of the Week. Well, really not the second, it's actually probably about the 150th, but second one we're doing a video for. So, Grand King Ghidorah, as some may or may not know, originates from the 1998 Rebirth of Mothra movie. It is technically not a Godzilla kaiju, but a Mothra kaiju. This version of Ghidorah has gone through many names. I prefer to still call it Grand King Ghidorah, but it has been known as Super Dragon King Ghidorah on the old big Bandai figure. And as of really, I want to say about the mid-2000s, 2010s, Toho's just been using the name King Ghidorah for it, which also reflects the Japanese title, King Ghidorah's attack, or King Ghidorah's counterattack, or something like that. But either way, it has King Ghidorah in the actual title. No Super Dragon in it, no Grand King in the name. So, why they did different names of this thing, I'm betting money just on merchandise. As I said, the old Bandai figure, unfortunately, that still remains the main figure we have of this specific King Ghidorah, and that is a real shame. Personally, this is my favorite King Ghidorah by far. I love everything about it, from its crown, the colors, the shape of its scales, its powers. This is the Ghidorah that I wish we would have gotten in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. It puts GMK's Ghidorah to shame, and I would even say it's better than Kaiju Ghidorah, because this Ghidorah feels like a world ender. I would say this Ghidorah is actually more Ghidorah-like than every Ghidorah before it, except for the very first. And what I mean by that is this Ghidorah this one's not a lackey. Like, even Death Ghidorah before it didn't have that feeling of this thing can actually destroy a planet. Grand King Ghidorah does, and the way it does it is very unique. Like, in the Showa era, when you think of what Ghidorah is supposed to do, it makes a landscape barren. It destroyed civilizations on Mars or Venus, depending on which version of the movie we're talking about. But Grand King Ghidorah, this version, just eats. That's all it does. It lands on a planet and it eats, and then it leaves. If the planet is barren of life after it's done, so be it. It originally came to Earth in the prehistoric era, coming with the end of the dinosaurs. Yes, this is like the second Ghidorah that is said to have destroyed the dinosaurs in the Rebirth of Mothra timeline. It was originally said to be Death Ghidorah. So, yeah, Toho's canon and lore department has never been a strong suit. But back to this Ghidorah, this earlier form, this juvenile Cretaceous King Ghidorah, also recycled a lot from Death Ghidorah, from the very first Rebirth of Mothra, shooting fireballs from its mouth opposed to lightning bolts. It even had the same roar. Again, same origin of coming from space and then fighting a moth and then being defeated. Now, after it destroyed the dinosaurs, the monster took off and was never seen again until modern day, or at that point modern day, 1998 Japan. Grand King Ghidorah arrives in the form of a meteorite that has anti-gravity properties, and eventually trying to think of what their names are in the Rebirth of Mothra series. The Elias. The Elias end up realizing Grand King Ghidorah is arriving, and summon Mothra, and by this time the monster has made its presence known by flying over cities and somehow teleporting its victims, which it feeds on, in this case, children. Lots and lots and lots of children. It kidnaps these kids and then sends them to a external stomach, a sort of organic dome that can fill itself with acid and then dissolve its victims and then convert whatever it does into energy and return to Grand King Ghidorah. Now, in the prehistoric time, we actually do see Cretaceous King Ghidorah just munching on dinosaurs, just grabbing them in his mouth, and you can assume he swallows a couple of them. But Grand King Ghidorah introduces this weird external stomach hostage situation with kids. And his stomach can even spawn tentacles to reach out and grab nearby victims. And yeah, good luck explaining that to your parents when they walk in and see this on your screen. And it's a very terrifying fate if it would have actually happened to anybody. Just, I can't imagine being stuck in a stomach that occasionally fills with acid that you have a chance of surviving, but with more and more people that would end up getting teleported into it, eventually somebody would get dissolved. And surprisingly, given the absolute stampede of children at the end of this movie, the fact none of them got absorbed is kind of surprising. Now, you could argue it could have been time travel hijinks, but we'll get into time travel hijinks in a whole another movie, because the Toku genre in general can't do time travel for shit. So, back to Ghidorah once more. We don't see this Ghidorah after this movie, unfortunately. Once it fights Armor Mothra, it's done. It never comes back. We don't get merchandise of it. It's had some model kits. As I said, there's been a Bandai figure, which I do have. But recently, it has popped up in Godzilla Battle Line. So maybe there's hope in the future. We'll get a Haya, or a Monster Arts, or even a Super 7. I don't know. But I am starved of a good figure of this design. So please, anybody out there, make this figure. Powers wise and design wise, I want to go back to this thing. It has concept art featuring split mouths like a graboid, along with 3 tongues, again like a graboid. Given Toho's track record in the 90s of ripping off popular and successful American films from Aliens and Destroya, Indiana Jones and Godzilla vs. Mothra, Terminator and Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, I would not be surprised if somebody saw the graboids, 3 tongues, Ghidorah's 3 heads, and decided to see what it looks like. Thankfully, I don't know, because part of me wants to see what that would actually look like, but I did want to say thankfully we don't have that, and they went with a more traditional draconic Ghidorah head. There's also some very interesting concept art showing it having different wings, including almost claw-like wings, in which I can just imagine it being used to grip opponents. There's also other weirder ones where they have lowered the wings almost to the thigh level of Ghidorah. Really do not like that design whatsoever either. I do wish they would have brought back something from Death Ghidorah's concept art, which was pretty much a bipedal Ghidorah, like Grand King Ghidorah, but then also with arms, opposed to being on 4 legs. I think having Grand King Ghidorah maybe with arms on along with having 3 heads, 2 tails, and 2 wings, could have helped make this one stand out even more, because at this point, Grand King Ghidorah looks cool, but he really doesn't stand out all that much. Even powers-wise, he brought some new stuff to the table, and stuff that's been surprisingly used since then, including wing lightning, very limited mind control, and of course, the feeding on humans bit, which was also hinted at a bit in 2019's King Ghidorah. This King Ghidorah also is able to generate a special light shield that is able to negate the properties of an opponent's energy attacks. It takes Mothra Leo a special evolution throughout millions of years to be able to penetrate this shield. But the details of it we really do not know. There's also been some debate if this Ghidorah and Cretaceous King Ghidorah have a sort of regeneration, and the reason that is back when Mothra Leo goes back in time to fight Cretaceous King Ghidorah, he ends up blowing off one of his tails. Now, Cretaceous King Ghidorah ends up going into the volcano, then in present day, Grand King Ghidorah vanishes and then comes back. So either he healed from a tail piece, or he came back after not being killed by the volcano. There was also used to be speculation that perhaps the tail grew into Death Ghidorah, and that explains why they said Death Ghidorah also destroyed the dinosaurs. So it's a whole bunch of stuff that we really don't know yet. Now, one thing, when you watch Rebirth of Mothra 3, you may notice that it has a sort of different feel to it compared to the first 2 movies. And while it's very easy to figure out why once you realize it, even Rebirth of Mothra 1 and 2 look decent. Not the best. You knew Kawakita was at the end of his career. At this point, he himself had even said he was giving up. But Rebirth of Mothra 3, besides Ghidorah himself, just has a more cheaper look to it compared to the vast forest battleground we've seen in Rebirth of Mothra 1, and even the pyramids in Rebirth of Mothra 2. The destruction scenes when Ghidorah is attacking the city, and we get these really awkward shots. And it's definitely because Kawakita's not there, and instead his protege and his assistant director, Kenji Suzuki, had taken over the reins. And what this means is it feels like a ripoff of Kawakita. So while Kawakita's work, like in Space Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Mothra, looked off, it still had a distinct... You could look at it and tell that was Kawakita's work. When you look at the work in Rebirth of Mothra 2, it doesn't feel it. It feels fake, it feels cheap, which is exactly what a common complaint of his work is from Rebirth of Mothra 3 onward. He had some okay shots in Godzilla 2000, and then of course Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, where he was infamously either let go or walked away from Toho. Either way, someone's head rolled after that movie, and it appears it was his. And given his track record on Rebirth of Mothra 3, it fits. So unfortunately, Grand King Ghidorah is most likely going to remain a really cool version of this monster that's going to be forever trapped in this movie. It never popped up again in manga that I'm aware of. The IDW comics have never used this version of King Ghidorah, despite it being so much better than the Heisei one as far as I'm concerned. But what does come to mind is Godzilla Battle Line just recently adding it and Armor Mothra, so that's a little little bit if you really like this monster. And then if you track down the fan fiction works of Clint Werner from the early to mid 2000s, he currently writes for, I believe, the Warhammer novels, but he had done a series of fan fiction in which bridged together the Heisei Godzilla era, Heisei Gamera, Rebirth of Mothra. It was all pretty nicely woven together with some tinkering with the canon, but it was fanfics. Well, anyway, but he did bring back Grand King Ghidorah, explaining that the Heisei King Ghidorah that we see is a clone of this one, and that's a cool little headcanon if it would ever happen, maybe in miniseries, comic, whatever, if they would ever bring back Grand King Ghidorah and explain why he is much more powerful and dreaded than your typical King Ghidorah. And with that, the next week's Monster of the Week poll has also been added. The 3 choices of the week are Sylvegon, originating from Ultraman Tiga, Jigger from the Gamera franchise, and then also Kamakuris. 3 monsters. Go to the Kaiju Hugbox, cast your vote, and next week I will be doing another video just like this, just exploring, going over powers and some behind the scenes and backstory of the winning monster. And until next time, Kaiju fans, peace out, and Minya, take it away.
Godzilla says you should like and subscribe.